I think that the fun part is really going to start soon. For those who don't know, I'm Burt Kushner. I'm one of the people in the department. I really want to welcome everybody. There are so many people that came for this event, some from very far distance. Young men came from halfway around the world. I'm very touched and honored, both local and from around the United States. This actually is our sort of annual fellows dinner, but it sort of morphed and took on a life of its own, and it became this thing related to my retirement, which I'll talk a little bit about. Usually in the past, when we've had our fellows dinner, Tom and I have gone around and had all the fellows stand up and say who they are and when they trained, and I always enjoyed reminding everybody that Stu Dankner was our oldest fellow, and I was going to do that tonight, but he actually had an accident, not serious, but has a couple of broken bones he's dealing with, and at the last minute couldn't come. So I'm not going to have everybody say who they are, but I do want to just introduce a few people. Judith Shaba is our current fellow, and maybe if you just stand up, and I met her husband Amir. Welcome to this extended family. And I also want to introduce or say a few words about Terry Young, who most of you know and probably know is now our new departmental chair. I've known Terry for many years, as long as she's been in pediatric ophthalmology, and I was very pleased that the search committee and the dean this year had the good sense to appoint a pediatric ophthalmologist as chair, and even better sense to make that Terry. I've been fortunate. I've been in the department for 40 years, and with almost no exceptions, I won't go into the exceptions, have been blessed to have really outstanding chairs steering the department that I worked under. I think a few people are chuckling and know what I'm alluding to. And I'm confident that Terry is going to continue this excellent tradition. Terry, if you want to just stand up or wave, and her husband Robert, who I met today. So you're now part of this fellows group also. So a lot of people have asked what I plan on doing with my retirement, and many people in our field don't completely retire. I do plan to stay active. I've been officially retired since August 21st. Synchronistic, but 2 hours before the meeting, the dinner tonight, I did get a letter from the chancellor saying that I'm officially now appointed emeritus. So I'm sort of back doing something. But I do plan to continue teaching and hopefully writing. I've always wanted to write a textbook. My vision was to write a textbook. We have so many textbooks in ophthalmology, in particular pediatric ophthalmology, and I was going to clone the idea from the computer books, The Missing Manual, what wasn't in the textbook, and just expand on, not give the basics, but what perhaps should have been there. And I actually had a very interesting thing come my way. The Academy I just learned this a couple days ago, is embarking on some big project where they're going to try and put online sort of the definitive textbook in every aspect of ophthalmology, and they got a very large grant from Knights Templar to do the pediatric ophthalmology section, and they approached me to write the strabismus section of that. So that may be a good vehicle for the book that I've always wanted to write, because there will be backup infrastructure with illustration and all the things that make it easier to do. I do plan to have occasional clinics for consultation and so on, but by and large, I am not going to be having regular clinics. The other thing which I wanted to mention, you saw the little flyer in this medal. This was a very interesting thing, and I'm surprised that I am as excited about it as I am, but I am. It started with an idea from someone in this group who chose to remain anonymous about having a named lecture after me, and the medal is something that would go to the designated lecturer. So the medal's been struck. Dale tells me I'm much better looking than the image on the medal, but I think that's not what it's all about. Many of the fellows know I really didn't know how to pursue this, how to have a named lecture. Do we do it here every year? Are people going to come to Madison? Do you have a big deal where they just come and, speak to a small number of residents? So I did this survey, which the fellows all received, former fellows all received, about would you come to Madison for a meeting and a lecture like this on years that the Academy isn't in Chicago, because when it's in Chicago, it's very easy. Like today, everybody comes and then they go to the Chicago meeting. And it really left me very uncertain what to do, because the reality was most people felt that they would not come to Madison on a regular basis for a yearly meeting on some other day in the fall, and there were some complexities in arranging a meeting in the city the Academy is if it's not in our local venue. And then this wonderful idea came to me through, was suggested from Gillian, who I'll introduce in a few minutes, about doing it as a webinar. And I hadn't thought about that. This is the 21st century, and that's how education is now being carried out. And APOS has started a regular webinar series. Right now they're doing it 4 times a year. So I approached them about having this named lecture part of their webinar series, and they were ecstatic about it. I mean, it was sort of a win-win thing that it would bring a really large international audience to the lectureship, and it would presumably add some prestige to their webinar series. And it also makes it very easy to have international people. You don't have, there certainly isn't the expense of flying a speaker from Europe or Asia or wherever. So we're in the process of working that out with them. I'm going to be doing that at the Academy, but I'm really actually very excited about that, and I think it's become very meaningful to me. With that as a segue, before I introduce Jim and Jim, who are going to do whatever they're going to do, I want to introduce Gillian Fink, who is our relatively new addition in our department as our development director, and Jim Egbert, and I think many of you have had some interactions with them about something with letters and things like that, so they're going to say a few words, and Gillian will talk a little bit about this medal endowment. Gillian, Jim, Egbert, and then I'll take the podium back.
Thank you, Burt. It's a great honor to be here and get to work with Burt and learn all the things that I'm looking forward to learning from in Burtapalooza as it unfolds this evening. But my privilege to work here in the Department of Ophthalmology in this new role is to help secure our future for pediatrics and ophthalmology, and just having the resources to do the great work that we do and continue Burt's legacy. So my invitation to you this evening is to plant a small seed in your mind of possibly considering giving back to help support the Kushner Lectureship and Medal. And I'll be reaching out to you gently and Midwesternly appropriately about considering this as a gift option in your charitable plans this year and beyond. So thank you so much for having me. Appreciate it.
I thought Edbert was going to say something, but he's mute,
Yeah.
so
Only for
thank
now.
you.
Of course.
Gillian. So as you all know, there's some kind of a show being put on by Jim McDonnell and Jim Edbert. I think that the best indication that it was time for me to retire was what this says about my judgment in asking them to run this show. I've had a little interaction with Jim McDonnell about it, and I said, Jim, is there anything that you need or that I should, do for this event? And he said no, and I said, well, seriously, which is an oxymoron when you're talking to Jim, I realize. So he said, well, you probably should bring a hard hat, which I did. He said a catcher's mask, and this is my own addition. So with that in mind, can't hear you.
I also said he should wear a cup.
I wasn't going to embarrass you, Jim. So I'm going to, with great hesitation, turn this over to Jim and Jim.
Well, we're very pleased to be here tonight. Anyway, for Burt, this is Burt's retirement Burt mitzvah, right? Now, we reached out to a number of people around the world who, when they found out that Burt was retiring, wanted to say something to Burt, and as a result, we received a number of different things. We received a lot of letters, which Burt will receive in a book, which have all been placed in a book. Gillian has done that for us. And a number of videos, all right, about 25 videos, which you are going to receive in a DVD. You'll see a few excerpts of those this evening. And so I thought we would just start off.
You are an amazing mentor. Thank you, Burt. Happy retirement. What are you going to do? Congratulations, Burt, on your retirement. Thank you for all the things. Congratulations, Burt. I hope you have a wonderful retirement. All I can say, Burt, is thank you.
Congratulations, Dr. Kushner.
Hi, Burt. It's always fun to come back to the site of many hangovers.
Congratulations. Happy retirement. Dad, I am so proud of you, and this is really fun.
Welcome to Burt Palooza. Tonight is a big night. I love you.
Hey Burt, it's been a great 20 years. You've been the most influential person on my career. I cannot thank you enough. So instead of making a long video, I thought I'd let some of my patients express how I feel about you. So enjoy.
Little girl, what's your name?
Madison.
And who's that with you?
Michaela.
Is there anything you want to tell Dr. Kushner?
Thank you for teaching Dr. Maida how to take care of my eyes.
Hey Burt, that little girl is imitating me with the sticker on my nose when I need both my hands. Anyway, really appreciate everything you've done for me in my career. All the
Hi,
best.
Dr. Kushner. I would like to thank you for training Dr. Mehta. He operated on me when I was 2 years old, and now I'm going to be 21, and I see 20/20 out of both eyes. Thank you.
Hi, Dr. Kushner. I'm Amalia's mom. I brought him to Dr. Mehta when she was 2, and I want to thank you for giving him the technology and making his hands like an angel. And we come 100 miles to see him wherever he goes.
Sweetie,
Jordan, John.
do you have anything you want to say to Dr. Kushner?
Yes.
What?
Thank you for Dr. Kushner for teaching Dr. Maida how to take care of my eyes. The glasses and the patching made my vision 20/20. Dr. Kushner, my name's Jovi. Dr. Maida fixed my eyes. He told me you taught him everything. Thank you.
This outtake from Jovi, I think, really expresses how I feel, Burt. Enjoy. And enjoy your retirement. It's well deserved.
Dr. Kushner. My name's Jovi. Dr. Maida fixed my eyes. He told me he taught you everything.
The interesting thing to note is that it was the mother that said he had hands like an angel.
Another turning point, a fork stuck in the road.
This is from Mark.
Your mother has direct you where to go. So make the best of this task and don't ask why. It's not a question of the last to learn in time. It's something I in the end is right. I hope you had the time of your life. In your mind, hanging on a shelf in your having good time. Tattoos and memories and nails still on trial. For what it's worth, it was worth all the while. It's something unpredictable, but in the end is right. I hope you had the time of your life. It's something unpredictable, but in the end that's right. I hope you had the time of your life. It's something unpredictable, but in the end that's right. I hope you had the time of your life.
I wore my Grateful Dead tie today. 28 years ago, Burt, when I first met you, I said, I'm going to work for Jerry Garcia. How good could this be?
Let's hear it for Mark. Thank you. These are the folks who wanted to be here. Some that are here, but many who are not. 1944, the Dewey and FDR presidential election 3 months away, and with the war roiling in Europe. And the Song of Norway premiering in New York City, America was in high gear in the war effort. Abraham Kushner was with Allied forces preparing for the Battle of the Bulge. On August 2nd, 1944, back in the States on the northwest side of Chicago, Abraham Kushner's young wife Beatrice gave birth to their second son, Burton J. Kushner, weighing just 6 pounds and 12 ounces, but with an unusually large head. The birth was labeled the stretch mark heard round the world. The brain, so full of neonatal knowledge, would later propel him to the top of his profession. Little Birdie's parents were ardent Disney fans and dressed him in the latest fashions. This early photograph shows the young infant Kushner performing his first cover-uncover test, an early indication that the child would one day become a world-class pediatric ophthalmologist. A precocious infant from the beginning, little Birdie began dating early on, and at only 3 weeks of age managed to get to second base on his first date. Well done, Bertie. A physical fitness enthusiast from the beginning, young Bertie often did push-ups, which he did so before he could even walk. But the little Bertie longed for the companionship of a dog. But asthma and hay fever and his father's dislike for dogs, because he hated getting dog hair on his white suits. Bertie was forbidden a dog even after he grew out of the allergies, and distressed that his little hairless stuffed dog had only hind legs, young Bertie cried for a whole year. A crying jag broken only by VE Day. After that, it was all smiles and mischief. Because he could not have a dog as a consolation, they gave little Bertie a beautiful monogrammed dog bowl from Marshall Fields and Company. Early years living in the bucolic Lakeview area of Chicago at Grace and Pine Grove, young Bertie was a free spirit. And his parents adored him. Abe and Beatrice moved their young family to Budlong Woods in West Rogers Park. There, Bertie entered the Jameson Elementary School on North Mozart Street. Though an excellent student, young Bertie longed for the out of doors and was often seen peering out the window on the second floor of the locked structure. It was in Budlong Woods, due to a combination of advertisements and earthy babysitters, that young Bertie developed a love of the great outdoors and a lifelong obsession with becoming a lumberjack. But the Midwestern outdoors didn't agree with the young Bertie's constitution, and in kindergarten he was shipped off to Tucson, Arizona, where he learned to ride horses and developed a secret love of wearing chaps. This photograph taken during one of those summers shows the young Kushner leading the police on a manhunt to a bank robber who had holed up in the trunk of his mother's Chevrolet. Sports did not come easily to the young Bertie, as demonstrated by the grip on this bat. But the young Burton spent many happy years in Budlong Woods, practicing all of the sports that he would eventually abandon. Well, the allergy medicine of the day had the embarrassing side effect of almost continuous stream of gas, which young Kushner took in stride. This was a side effect that his contemporaries enjoyed tremendously, but got him into mischief during trips to Beverly Shores Beach. The young boy developed an unusually keen interest in archery after a local archery expert visited his school for a demonstration. He in time became an excellent archer, winning contests while wearing a leather jacket instead of a wrist protector. a custom he picked up from his archery instructor. In grade school, the young Kushner took an early interest in magic and became wildly popular with this newfound talent. He was actually referred to as Burton the Magnificent, where he amazed his classmates with his ability to hide multiple decks of cards and a kielbasa in his clothing. At the age of 12, Burton entered the military reserves, but unable to move his arms or legs due to too much starch in his uniform, he was given an honorable discharge and turned his focus to his spiritual nature, where the son of Dr. Mr. and Mrs. Abraham Kushner was bar mitzvahed that fall. Arnie and Bea moved their growing family up to Glencoe, Illinois, in the Tony North Shore of Chicago. It was there, during numerous visits from Burton's Uncle Herman, that the young Kushner became schooled in numbers, practical mathematics, known today as gambling. An independent businessman, Uncle Herman operated his own business successfully on the north side of Chicago without the inconvenience of paying taxes. Unfortunately, young Burton's skill with magic exceeded his facility with poker. While he was able to impress his classmates with card tricks, he astounded his parents by his ability to make money disappear magically from his piggy bank while playing poker. Burton entered New Trier High School on the North Shore in 1957 as a member of the class of 1961. New Trier proved fertile ground for the young man's intellectual talents. A 1959 photograph of the Boys Honor Club shows the usually happy-go-lucky and cheerful young Burton. Medication side effects persisted to the delight of his classmates. Sophomore year, Burton won an award for his photo of a rare display of northern lights in Chicago. And later won a trophy for his Optimist Club speech contest after delivering a message of bleak communism, lost love, death, and frostbite. As there were no other submissions that year, his riveting 6-hour speech won him first prize. The Optimist Club immediately disbanded following the speech, citing no point in continuing. Young Burton moved forward to a prominent position in the National Forensic League. He worked diligently to use his talent in debate and persuasion with his classmate, the up-and-coming student and starlet Anne Margaret. Despite his formidable forensic abilities, he noted later that he was unable to, quote, close the deal. Bertie and his brothers Ken and Arnie spent great summers in northern Wisconsin as camp counselors at their no-frills camp under the direction of energetic and fun-loving camp directors. And no matter where he went, Burt never left his beloved dog bowl behind. Burton's interest in medicine came in no small part from his older brother Arnie, with whom he loved to have staring contests. Arnie pictured here just back after spaying a cat's neighbor. The young Bertie kept himself in top physical condition, building his formidable biceps by hefting double cheeseburgers and heavy gallons of chocolate peanut butter ice cream. He also was fortified by his enormous appetite for beets, which would curiously depart his body within seconds after consuming them. Burton became a talented writer and wrote his junior theme on the fourth dimension, a subject he encountered during his intense study of plant biology. It won him the Forensic Society's highest Order of the Dude, the highest distinction in the psychedelic 60s. Burton went on to attend the University of Wisconsin with an eye toward medicine. Those 4 years were marked by intense, long study. Pictured here in his favorite study getaway, the young academic would spend entire days studying the inside of his own eyelids. But it was his keen attention to detail that led to the discovery that the eye in the university's seal had a negative angle kappa. But it wasn't all work and no play. Young Burt dated considerably during his early years. But one fateful evening, when Burton was at a fraternity function, there only to study the effects of alcohol on liver metabolism, he met the beautiful and charming Dale Frankel, and the die was cast. Wearing his ever-present ortho shirt and drinking ortho beer from that day forward, Burt only had eyes for Dale. Burt went on to attend the prestigious Northwestern Medical School, where he excelled in anatomy. His secret discovery of time travel from his Zen-leaning brother Ken was invaluable to his dissection skills. In September 1967, Burton married his lifelong love, Dale. Burt's announcement that they would be going to Bermuda for their honeymoon sparked concerns from his new bride about the dangers of the Bermuda Triangle. Dismissed as childish superstition by the young scientist, they went anyway, but were plagued by an unusual weather system during their stay on the small island. In 1969, Dr. Kushner graduated medical school and was voted the graduate with the least resemblance to Marlon Brando. The grateful Evanston Hospital triumphantly recruited the highly sought-after young doctor for his internship year and had a banner that said, "Now ranked number 1, thank you, Dr. Kushner." This placed the hospital on the map as a top hospital and heralded it as the Kushner era. After his residency, Burton's fellowship with Dr. John Flynn at the world-renowned Bascom Palmer Eye Institute in Miami was transformative. He arrived there at a time, unfortunately, when there was a shirt sleeve shortage. That year in Miami, Burton and Dale worked tirelessly on their studies and their tans. Take a good look. Burton returned to his academic roots in Madison, Wisconsin, and surrounded by his mentors, he was recruited by the famous Davis Dewar Eye Clinic. The clinic spent lavishly advertising their new associate. It was here that Dr. Kushner would remain for the rest of his career, with visions of becoming the institution's premier ophthalmologist. Though having many surgical successes early on in his career, his young practice struggled, and in order to afford their lavish vacations, and just to make ends meet, the young Dr. Kushner took part-time work as a personal trainer, keeping him in top physical condition. He also earned income as a lumberjack, a lifelong love of his. He enjoyed spending long weekends away in the North Woods of Canada, enjoying the camaraderie of the other young, struggling, like-minded pediatric ophthalmologists. The industrious Dr. Kushner was able to turn his low-paying hobby into a profitable game show, inviting other pediatric surgeons to Madison for strabismus axe competitions. A promising side business of plush toys and cough drops unfortunately failed. Kushner recalled that the musical Hair had a transformative effect on his personal style. His new look allowed him access to the local celebrities of the day. But perhaps the actual reason for Kushner's facial hair was to conceal this tattoo on his right cheek, acquired during a forgotten night in the Wisconsin Dells. Inspired by his love of the outdoors, Kushner founded an organization called Back Burt's Boys, dedicated to introducing the outdoors to young men. Well, after taking his 2 young sons to the Northwoods Club, The club's required DNA test, you can see the DNA on his pants, astounded Kushner when he found out that his sons were actually girls. A serious consumer of art films, Kushner would often imagine how those would have been made better if he were in them. While studying fermentation in his basement, Dr. Kushner's always scientific mind led to many explosive discoveries. But just as his practice was gaining traction, an offhand comment to a patient that he could, quote, make him straight, led to a vocal outcry by the local gay community. It wasn't until Burton pledged to become gay himself that the controversy finally resolved. He finally recalled that that period was an incredibly good time for his strabismus practice and his physique. But then two life-changing events rocked him back to earth. First, a near drowning in the eye clinic when there was a breach in the dike of the Wisconsin River, and the other, after returning home from a Zen mushroom festival with his brother Ken, his wife Dale appeared to him in a dream and asked him to return to his straight lifestyle. From that day forward, Burton would only use the word ortho when referring to straight eyes. Thus began what has become known as the fellowship years. Burton's fellows soon learned that Burt's outer laid-back stoner appearance concealed his true inner character. Dr. Kushner had to shoulder the entire fellowship during his co-director's absence when Dr. Thomas France left for the Middle East to pose as an Arab sheik in the Gulf War effort. It was during those years Kushner lavished his fellows with baked goods and exorbitant junkets and dinners in exotic locations. Here, pictured at one such outing at a Wendy's in Middleton, Wisconsin, with one of his most illustrious fellows and orthoptist Jackie Frank just back from her national tour with Hair the Musical. No place was too exotic for the intrepid Kushner, trekking all over the globe, and even nearly losing a leg, snaring his beard on a grapevine, and suffering a freak concussion at a fellows' dinner. He was undeterred to provide his fellows with the best. And despite one annoying outing when he had to wait 36 hours for the tide to come in so that he could kayak, and once when he survived an exorbitant bill for an outing that was so costly it caused him to frankly wet his pants, Kushner's fellows adored him, emulating him not only in his professional practice styles, but even going so far as to emulate his own personal hobbies, interest, and even his own personal style, and his fashion sense, some more successfully than others. But a man of such success could not help to make enemies amongst the ranks of his jealous pediatric ophthalmology colleagues. He was able to survive 2 attacks on his life. One, when seemingly innocuous finger puppet laced with poison nearly caused him to smile to death. And when only by quick thinking he survived a homicidal devil's food sheet cake presented to him at a professional meeting. There were also personal struggles. Once on a vacation with his wife Dale, who loved kayaking, Dr. Kushner nearly perished when he accidentally aspirated a banana slug. It was only by the swift thinking of his wife Dale that he survived. Additionally, a rare and debilitating family condition in which their magnetized heads of the Kushner family almost incapacitated him, nearly ending his career so that So desperate, he opted for experimental surgery in which one half of his brain was removed. His colleagues were concerned that after such surgery, he would be unable to return to his practice and have to go into retina. But luckily for medicine, that was not the case. There were some lingering hand magnetization side effects, but these lasted only a brief time, such as the time it takes to write a book. Today marks the official retirement of Burton J. Kushner, a man who has made an indelible mark on the lives of his friends, his patients, his colleagues, and his family. While we are sad that he is leaving practice, his cabin, his wife Dale, and his dog with 4 legs that he always longed for as a child await him in this new chapter of his life. So we say thank you, Burton Kushner, and we wish you Godspeed. Yep. Isn't that on Kim? Okay. Well, Burt, because this is your night. You are the king. I dub thee the king of strabismus.
Burt, I just wanted to say thank you very much. I was thankful that you even considered taking me, coming from New Jersey, and it was an awesome fellowship, and I was very thankful that Neil took me in to work at Davis Stewart, and seeing so many of your patients and telling you of a patient you operated on 30 years ago, and you told me what surgery you did and the measurements, and you still remembered. So I find it amazing. But thank you very much. I appreciate everything, and thank you, everyone.
So Burt, the fellowship has had a number of side effects on me. One of them is now I need reading glasses. So when I came here, it was the year that you turned 50. I don't know if you remember that. Do you remember that year when you turned 50? And I guess we're allowed to say whatever we want based on the presentation from Jim McDonald. Sorry. My first real interaction with you was when you called me about a week to 10 days before the fellowship was going to start and said, "Oh, by the way, I'm not going to be operating this year." And I said, "Okay, well, what?" He says, "Well, because I have this thing with the thoracic outlet, but I still want you to come, but I just wanted to let you know." So I never told you this, but what I really wanted to say to you was that, well, all the previous fellows told me the reason to come to Madison wasn't really to learn from you. It was because of the orthoptists, because of Leslie, Jackie, and Gail. So I just wanted to set the record straight. I've been holding that in for 20 years. I think it was the first day of clinic, and everybody knows the club. I think most people know the club story. I walk out, Burt walks out with me, and he sees me fiddling around with my car. And I got this big metallic thing on called the club. And he's like, "You're in Madison, Wisconsin now. You don't need that." I said, "Well, this is a new car. I saved up all during residency." He goes, "I don't think I've locked my front door in 20 plus years living in Madison." Is that still the case? Times are changing. But I think everybody comes here. We learn from our teachers, and that's all good and well. I had my patients say a few things about you because every time we interact with a patient, we know that it's what we learned in our residency and our fellowships from a lot of the people in here who've influenced us. But I think the amazing thing about you was your humanity. And I remember there was a glaucoma patient that I think Bob Weinreb in UC San Diego had operated on. But they would come to you, and they would always want you to manage them. And the patient had to be admitted, the child had to be admitted, you thought, for antibiotics. And I'm your fellow. And remember, I came from Jewel Stein, where culture was a little bit different. And I remember you calling me and saying, "Do you mind writing admission orders for this patient?" And I'm like,
do I mind? I thought I was your fellow. But I think you were so considerate, and you have always been so considerate of your fellows. You wanted us to have not only a good educational experience, but you showed us kindness, you showed us humanity, and most of all, you treated us with respect. And I thank you for that, just the way you've treated all your patients through these years. So it's not really retirement. Please let us know your email address so when we have difficult cases, we can still send them to you. And I hope you enjoy this evening.
So I'm Jim Egbert, and I was lucky to be Burt's 9th fellow a while ago. And we have some videos from people who could not be here. I was a little torn on what to say exactly, but I think one thing that I remember kind of personifies one of the things that makes Burt so unique. And when I was in Madison, I was a single young guy. I was flush with money because rent was $400 a month, and I was getting paid a lot of money at the University of Wisconsin. And so I enjoyed the nightlife and my fellowship as well. And I remember on Fridays at Davis Door, we would discuss patients at the end of the day. So at 4 or 5 o'clock, Burt was generous to come, and we would discuss. It was a main teaching part. And I remember 1 or maybe 2 or 3 Fridays, I would start falling asleep because I'd had too much fun that week on State Street. And I remember one time in particular, I was kind of dozing off, and I realized I was dozing off, and I woke up, and I looked at Burt, and his initial reaction to that really says a lot about what Burt is like. So I looked at Burt, and he looked at me. He was a little surprised I almost fell out of the chair sleeping. And he smiled and started laughing. And he thought it was the funniest thing in the world, and then he just kept on teaching. There was no like, what is going on here? I'm the most important person in the world. It was, his initial thought was complete, just kindness and a sense of humor. And so I feel very blessed that I got to spend some time with Burt, and I try to put a little of that in my interactions with other residents and fellows. Thank you, Burt.
I wanted to share one other aspect of Burt that many of you may not be aware of. We all know he's a man of science. He's published many articles. He adheres to the strictest criteria. But it might surprise you to know that he also has a kind of a superstitious side to him, or maybe I should say supernatural side to him. And I learned of this when he told me about the car he was driving during the year of my fellowship. And I think it was actually Dale's car, but he occasionally drove it once in a while. And he was convinced the car was haunted. And he had good reason for it. Apparently, whenever he drove the car, the horn would go off, all by itself. But it never happened when Dale was driving the car. And so a scientific explanation could only be that it was haunted. And he came over one day to my apartment because we were working on a project together. And it was honking off and on the way to the apartment. So the car knew something was up, or the ghost that haunted the car. And my wife wasn't there, but I invited him to stay for dinner. It was, basically leftover food that she had made for me, meaning it wasn't toned down in terms of spice level. So Burt was sweating through the night, but he tolerated it pretty well. And then after we had finished our discussion, he went home. And he told me that on the way home, the car honked the whole time, all the way back to his house. So in addition to all the clinical pearls he imparted, he made one other practical point, which is don't eat spicy Indian food and drive a haunted car right afterwards. So thank you, Burt, for that and everything else.
And it never went off as badly as when I finished that dinner. Steering with my knees, and I did not touch the wheel.
We're going to believe this from a guy who's wearing a crown.
If I had a crown then, the horn would have been quiet.
You know, tonight is kind of a night for your fellows, and I feel a little bit like an imposter here because I was never a fellow here. But I'm honored to be able to be here, and I do think that I actually I'm sure that between Tom and you, Burt, and Jackie, and everyone else, I learned much more here than I actually brought in my fellowship. So thanks for being patient. You taught me the meaning of the word patience and how to do the best we can and learn from our patients. But it was a wonderful 7 years that I spent here, and for those fellows that I got to participate in training, I'm very grateful to you for putting up with my youth and impudence. So thanks very much, and it's nice to be here. Thanks.
I didn't prepare anything, but I just have happy memories and lots of gratitude for everyone here. I didn't want to do a fellowship. I wanted to be done, just done. But I knew I wanted to do peds, and I was encouraged by my chairman, Oscar Cruz, and he came fortuitously and did a grand rounds here, and he came back to my residency as a third year, and he smiled and he said, "I have your next home." And so thankfully y'all took me in, and it was truly the best year. And everything I do every day, I think of everybody here, especially you, Dr. Kushner, and my patients. I talk about y'all all the time. If you know me, you know I talk about y'all all the time. And it truly was a family atmosphere, and that's why Oscar kind of handpicked it and suggested it to me, because that's what I need, is a lot of coddling. And I got the coddling, and I got the education, and I just can't thank you enough. So anyway, good luck.
I'm very grateful to be here, especially since I only started my fellowship about 3 months ago. But when I was looking at programs, I had applied, and I received a letter from Dr. Kushner, who kindly announced that he was actually going to retire by the time I would be starting my fellowship. So I went to Dr. O'Hara, who was my pediatric ophthalmology mentor in residency, and I was a little concerned, and I asked Dr. O'Hara, well, what should I do? Do you think I should still go and interview? And she was like, well, you should certainly check it out. It's a very good program. And then she was like, retiring is not such a bad thing. And her eyes started sparkling, and she was like, I think probably Dr. Kushner will never retire. And then if he can just spend a few hours every now and then teaching you, oh my. And how right was she? She's a very wise woman, and she's a military person, so getting sparkles in her eyes do not happen that often. So I could sense that there was something really special here. And I have to say, Dr. Kushner has made a very generous effort to meet with me every week and making me really excited about strabismus, which really I did not think I would be. So I really thank you, and you have so much to teach us, and I'm so happy you will never really retire. Thank you very much.
So my first memory of Burt, our first real conversation aside from the fellowship interview, I think it was the first week of fellowship, and you said, "Hey, Shavel, after clinic, just stop by my office. I want to talk to you." And so I thought, okay, well, I haven't been here that long, so probably nothing bad. And then I go into his office, and he goes, I just wanted to explain the schedule to you. He goes, we have 6 attendings here in Madison. It's a one fellow program. So we have to figure out a good way to divide up the rotations. He goes, so I decided to make 2 different blocks. One block of 3 attendings, Schedule A. A second block of 3 attendings, Schedule B. I go, okay. He goes, you could do a set schedule for the week, Mondays here, Tuesdays here, so on and so forth. But we have some attendings who only operate every other Tuesday at a certain facility.
So to make it easier for you, I have an Excel spreadsheet. And he pulls one Excel spreadsheet out. He goes, that's Schedule A. There's 4 weeks for the 4, the schedule's a little different, week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4. But for simplicity, I've put it on this Excel spreadsheet. I thought, okay. He goes, the second Excel spreadsheet is Schedule B for the other 3 attendings. And I thought, oh, okay. He goes, now, after the beginning of the year, it might be difficult to remember. Are you on week 1? Are you on week 2, 3, or 4? So for simplicity, I've made a third Excel spreadsheet. All the weeks. So you just have to look what week of the year it is. And it'll tell you if that's week 1, week 3, week 4, so on and so forth. He goes, not bad, right? And I thought, oh man, if this is a schedule, who knows what kind of strabismus I'm going to see this year. But, when you think about it, it's a very complicated schedule, and that probably was one of the simplest way to explain it. And that, the strabismus can get very, very complicated. And I think what we all appreciate is how easy you make it for us, as easy as it can be. So thank you so much for all that you do for us.
So I'm Annie Steele. I practice in Denver. I was with Burt, I think, in 2004 to 2005. I turned 40 a few weeks ago, 2 months ago actually now, and my sister put together this video, and she contacted all friends from high school, college, medical school, residency, and then current friends, and put it all together with birthday wishes for me. And my family got together, and she played the video, and she turns it on, and the first person on the video is Burt. And I thought it was so funny that, first of all, she even knew to contact him. And she goes, yeah, this Burt, he sent in his video right away. He was the first one. I just thought that was so sweet. And I just really appreciate that he would take the time to do that. And I think that just says a lot about how much he still cares about us. But I will say, we're all saying such great things about him, but I think we should not forget about the groups of people he hates. There are people he hates. I would say belonging to that group are
the Irish.
I would say most sort of professional sports-related people of any kind. I would say people that use motorized vehicles on his lake near his house in Wisconsin and make noise. I would say Republicans, obviously. I would say people who don't use adjustable sutures are probably somewhere on that list. I think, that's something I really like about him. As great of a guy as he is and as laid back as he is, he's not a pushover, and he always has opinions, and they're funny opinions. And so I really enjoyed my year with him, and I wish you all the best.
So some of you know me. I'm Swati Agarwal, and I've actually not prepared anything, but I would really say thank you so very much for making me a part of this family. And I came to the United States in 2005, and I think 2007 I joined the fellowship program. It was a very special. I was not here for 1 year, but I was here for 2 years, and I think I'm very, very appreciative for whatever you did for me to make my career in this country. Thank you so very much.
Hi, my name is Tim Daly. I'm a fellowship graduate in 2012 and residency graduate in 2011. I remember starting out my fellowship, I had this really ambitious goal. I thought, wouldn't it be great if I could just crank through all of Dr. Kushner's papers and just maybe not memorize them, but just wouldn't it be great if I could just read each paper that he had written before I graduated. And I knew he wrote a lot, but I didn't realize how long that list was until I actually searched it, and I thought, wow, that's not, oh, like that's gonna happen. And it still hasn't happened. I'm working on it. But one of the things that I love so much about the way Burt writes his papers is that, and I'm sure you guys have come across this. I mean, I feel like even, I'm only 2 years into practice and I come across something new and I thought, I'm sure somebody's written about this. Let's see what's out there. And of course, Burt's written about it. I mean, anything strabismus related, it seems like he has a paper or two in there. But what I love so much about reading his papers is it feels like I'm listening to him talk about it. And, so many academic or scientific papers are written kind of in the passive tense, like this was done, these patients had this happen. But many papers are written either by Burt or Gail as co-authors, and he would kind of take ownership, and he writes in the first person. And he said, well, I did this to these patients, and this happened, and there was just an ownership and also a humility, because things aren't 100%, and we don't always have 100% success rates, and I just loved how refreshing that was, and so something I've been thinking about for a long time. Never said it, but I just really enjoy reading your papers because it feels like we're picking up an old conversation. So congratulations on an outstanding career.
At me, and she walked in and said, I want you to know I decided to keep my appointment with you, but someone else told me I should also go see this Burt Kushner. She said, have you heard of him? And I said, yes, I have. And she said, who is this Dr. Kushner? And it gave me a chance to really think about, well, who is Dr. Kushner? And to say, well, he's this really smart guy. He's a big thinker about strabismus. He has this way of making complicated problems seem really simple. And I remember we'd be talking about patients and my head would be kind of spinning and you would say, well, this is how I would think about it. And I always did just kind of cut through everything and make it seem really simple. But so I could tell this patient that you can trust him to do the right thing, not just the right strabismus thing, but really the right thing for you as a person, as a patient, as a resident, as a fellow, like other people have mentioned. I think those are the things that mean the most to me. Not just a wonderful strabismus person who taught me a lot about pediatric ophthalmology, but taught me a lot about how to take care of patients and how to be a good doctor. So thank you.
Burt, I never really met your family except for Dale, so it's nice to meet you all. Oh, yeah. Start over. Kushner family, it's nice to meet you all. Dale, it's wonderful to see you. Burt, it's been a long time since I looked young and smooth in the face. I'm one of the old guard. I came when Tom and Burt were together as a team. I learned from both, and it was the most wonderful year of my life. And you've heard that hundreds of times before. You've heard all the things that everybody's experienced, and they're all true. The thing of it is that if you're teaching, you try to carry forward. I think the expression is pay it forward, and that's what you do. I was paid forward. I learned. It's emotional listening to people. It's emotional saying these things. But I keep you in my mind. I keep that idea, and I think about it and say, what would Burt do? How would he say this? How would he express this? What would he do for the patients? So thank you. It was marvelous.
I didn't ask to speak, and if anybody's got a handkerchief ready, I'll probably need it because I never can do these things without crying. And tonight is no exception. Quit cheering. That's not fair. I've already said goodbye to Burt a couple of times. We've had at least 3 parties for celebrating his retirement. And I'm really glad that it's not really retirement and he's coming back. And that's kind of what keeps me coming back to work. And I mean, you've heard all the educational stuff. Everybody says how much you've taught them, taught you about strabismus, and I never stopped learning that. But I also learned a lot about life.
I know.
And those lessons will never go away, and thank you, Burt.